Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mark's Remarks. This week, I'm joined by the Rhode Island Football defensive backs coach, a former member of the Rhode Island Rams football program, joined by Henry Yianakopolos. Henry, how are we doing today?
I'm good, Mark. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
Of course. As one of just the studs NFL draft prospects that graduated during my initial first season covering URI football, you've been a guy that I've been interested in keeping tabs on for the past few years. And I mean, obviously, your stats and experiences as a player here at URI speak for themselves, but the fact that you were able to come back and give back to the program as a coach and help lead this Rhode Island team over that hump that they're so desperately trying to make to get into the playoffs was pretty cool. And I was like, you know what? Got to get Henry on the show to learn a little bit more about just your overall experiences as basically just a bona fide Rhode Island legend, a legend of this program, wow. And what the team is going to look like going forward, because obviously there's been so much turnover this past season and the season before, particularly on the defense, and I thought bringing in the defensive-minded coach, the defensive backs coach, would do fans a lot of good to hear just what the team would be looking like. But before we get into all of that, I want to take it back years and years and years ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. I want to learn a little bit more of just how you got into football and where the decision came from to ultimately join up and play for Rhode Island, because you started in 2018. Can't really say that Rhode Island was at the upper echelon of the football pyramid at that point. Going into 2018, it was, I believe, 5 or 6 straight seasons of at least 5 games below 500, a couple 1 or 2 win seasons in there.
No doubt.
So a program having a record like that must have made trying to get recruits somewhat difficult, and it must have made for, I have to imagine, interesting pitches from the football staff. So, I mean, I'm just curious, how was that process like for you getting recruited by Rhode Island and then ultimately making the decision to join?
Right, yeah. It's a pretty crazy story, to be honest, and it starts in high school, right? I played for a team in Pop Warner called Kearsarge Wildcats in New Hampshire. However, once we had finished up in middle school playing football with them, I didn't know where I was going to go play. My high school team did not have football. So I was curious where I was going to go, and they weren't going to let me go play with those guys in Kearsarge, go to a neighboring town. So I was ready to transfer schools. I was very, very serious about playing football in college at the next level. We had a club program that was combined with a different school. And so I ended up playing that club program my freshman year, playing four teams in this club program, right? They allowed postgraduate players, so kids that are freshmen at college would come back and play against us. And, you know, I was I don't know how you are, a 14, 15-year-old freshman playing quarterback in DB against these kids that are in college, and 0-9 season. So, you know, it wasn't successful, but the feeling of just wanting to grow and continue to play football was just still huge in my mind. And so from there on, we didn't know if we were going to get an actual sanctioned team by New Hampshire at our school. So, you know, my mom and my dad and I just started to look at neighboring schools, maybe like a private school or something like that to go to, because I wanted to play football. And they're like, if you're serious about this, then we'll continue to push you and do what we need to do to get you in the right spot. So luckily, some members of neighboring schools and parents got together and finally were able to get a sanctioned team for us. So I owe a lot to them. And so my sophomore and junior year of high school, we were a JV team. So I played JV football combined with a different school. And so senior year was actually my first year of varsity playing football in high school. And the rule is that you have to be JV for 2 years as a new program, and then you get varsity for the next year. So I was able to do that. So my 1 year of varsity experience, I knew was going to be hard for me to get reached out to and go play at the next level. I ended up hiring a recruiting coach online through NCSA, I think it was called. And he had said to me, he's like, you can either go play at a Division III school and be the big guy on Saturdays, or you can go try to walk on to a Division I program. There's a chance of making it, there's a chance of not making it, but you're going to have to definitely earn your keep. And nothing in my preparation for college had taught me that I was going to take the easy way out. And so I knew that I wanted to play at the highest level that I could and compete and not have things given to me. So I applied to UNH and I applied to URI, got into both schools, right? Got into both business schools as just a regular student. I took a tour at URI, and I had emailed Coach Flanagan, who's the associate head coach, running backs coach right now, and emailed him, was like, hey, I got into school here, I'm on campus, and I'm taking a tour just as a regular student. I would like a chance to play for your football team. He said, all right, send me your tape, and then once you're done with your tour, come up to the offices and we'll talk to you. So I went on my tour, sent them my tape, they watched it, I went into the offices, walked to the offices, and they said, okay, look, we like what you have. We'll give you a preferred walk-on position here, which means you have a spot for summer camp coming in 2017. And for me, it was like I just got an offer to Alabama. You know what I mean? I was ecstatic. I never thought I'd play Division I football. It was like the thing I'd worked so hard for was finally there. And so I tried to do the same thing with UNH, right? Because that's my hometown, that's my team, it's the same league, same conference, and I was like, okay, like this is like, to be able to choose between the two, be like a hometown kind of guy, go to a school, that would be incredible. Did the same thing there, except they said that I'd actually have to try out. I'd have to come to tryouts and walk on. And I was like, look, this team in Rhode Island, right, isn't in a great spot. They took a chance on me. I'm not a high-level recruit at all by any means. I had to go to them, and they're giving me a shot. Let's go there. Let's leave New Hampshire and go try to experience something new. And that's how I became a player at URI. And definitely an interesting path, but one that I'm very grateful and blessed for, that I had the opportunity, and kind of made me the guy I am today and put me in a position to be where I am today.
Yeah, you don't really see players taking a path like that, especially to a university like URI,
Right.
that had been in, I guess you could say, like down in the dumps in terms of their football program. And I mean, just shows just like the grit and hard work that characterizes what you had eventually go on to do throughout your career. But that's really fascinating. I mean, it was just UNH and URI that you applied to? Were there any other colleges in New England that you were like thinking of that maybe you could possibly do the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I had applied to other schools. Like, I remember applying to Bentley because they had a great business school, got waitlisted there. I wasn't like an A+ student. I had like a 3.3. It's like a B+ average. It's nothing. It's not bad. It's not like fantastic. It was just I was all right. So I got waitlisted there. I had tried to get with like Villanova, but Villanova is like super high academic standings, and I wasn't able to get in there. Yeah, schools here and there, just low-level schools, small schools. Like, I've been hit up by very small schools, like maybe Bridgewater State, Dean College, those schools, to go play maybe baseball and football. And I had played lacrosse in high school, so I'm not sure how they got that. But so there was opportunities to play football, no doubt. Whether I went the D3 route or D1 route, I just took it upon myself to challenge myself and be like, I can play at a high level. I just need to be put in the right program and just need to show these coaches how hard I work. And so evidently that's what happened, and it worked out. So.
Yeah, and so then clearly going into the summer, you have that position in the summer of 2017. How was that like for you, participating in camp like that? Because obviously you have the confidence to feel like that, all right, they're taking a chance on me, like
Right.
I'm going out here to prove that I'm capable of competing with these guys. But at the same time, like you're probably going in there thinking, I still got that preferred walk-on little tag behind me. Yeah. Were you at all like nervous going into that camp, like thinking like, all right, I really, really, really need to show out?
Nerves is an understatement. I mean, like I had never been put in a position that I was so uncomfortable in, and in order to become great, in order to push yourself beyond measures, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So this was a test for me to see how bad I really wanted it. And when we talk about how many people are on a team, let's say there's 100. I was number 100. You know, I was the worst on that team. And I don't say that to be like, oh man, like look at him. It was like, no, it was like, I'm the low man on the totem pole. I was 100 out of 100. Everybody that competes at the Division I level was the best on their team. And we had kids from Virginia, from California, from Florida, Texas, these schools that just breed, you know, high school, going to college athletes at the top levels. And I was just so excited to be able to compete against these guys and see where I stacked. But I was ready to do whatever it took, carry pads, get kids water. You know what I mean? Like be that like crash dummy, like just a tackling dummy. Like I was ready to do whatever it took to make a mark on this team and earn my keep. And, you know, I understand that trust is earned and not given. And I had to earn it from every one of those kids and every one of those coaches. I had coaches on staff that didn't even know my name, and so it's like, and it's not like a shot at them, right? It's just that there's this kid that just walked on, and they were worried about their high-level recruits and getting those guys ready. And I was a guy that was like 4th on the depth chart as a strong safety. And, it's just like I was ready to do whatever it took, and I knew I was going to work. And I knew it was going to come in the first year, probably not the second year, probably not the third year. But for me, the light of the tunnel was so far away that it was hard to see it sometimes. But I just knew I had to keep going, and this is what I wanted, and I worked so hard for it. I was like, there's so many people back home believing in me that I couldn't stop, and I couldn't let them down. And eventually, the light at the end of the tunnel kind of showed. And it was there.
And so when you talk about that, forming that trust and trying to build up your own sort of, I guess, resume in the eyes of your teammates and your coaches, how did you feel that your relationship with the coaches evolved like over that initial couple weeks and months? Because obviously, like you said, like you're the walk-on, like you're not at the highest on their priority list at that time.
Right.
But eventually, like you're obviously showing your stuff, you're showing that you're capable because it's what led you to end up playing here for so long. But just like, how did you see your relationships with individual coaches progress over time?
Yeah, I mean, immediately coming in, right, the defensive backs coach that was here, was kind of, he wasn't the guy had given me a shot. So like I was kind of just placed in his room, and so I'm just kind of that guy that's going to be like an extra look guy for them. But Coach Flanagan and Coach Fleming, I owe them a lot because they gave me that initial shot, right? They probably thought, okay, we'll bring this kid in and he'll just be an extra body that works hard, and he'll give us some life, you know what I mean? And that's all I needed was that opportunity. And so I came in and did that. And so my relationship with them, especially Coach Flan, grew because I was truly honored and blessed that he saw that in me and gave me the opportunity I needed. And I told him that day, I was like, I'm gonna work as hard as I can, and I'm gonna show you that I can play here, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna earn a spot here. Like one of those things, like you heard Tom Brady go to Robert Kraft and be like, I'm the best decision you ever made. Like I kind of tried to do that thing with Coach Flan. And so that relationship flourished. With the coaching staff that was there, I didn't see much fit in terms of playing. The system and stuff and the way that the coach was kind of putting the pieces together, I wasn't really a fit for that defense. And so as you know, in that 2019-2020 season, right, there was an overhaul of a lot of the staff, and new staff came in. And Jack Cooper and his staff came in, and Jack Cooper saw something in me and kind of pushed me into a role that the last coach that was there didn't really see me fit. So in terms of my relationship with coaches, once the new coaches came in, and that ended up being my 4th, 5th, 6th year, that's when I really started to develop a real relationship with my coach because I saw a little bit of return on investment. You know what I mean? I saw him kind of push into me and push me to be a leader, push me to be that kind of hybrid player I was, and put me into a role because he knew my football IQ was high, knew I could take to the playbook and learn a lot of positions. So Jack Cooper and that staff really took to me, and that's the relationship I really built and a really strong relationship I have to this day.
And so then during that 2018 season, you made 3 appearances. And I mean, making 3 appearances as a walk-on during your basically like your first year must have felt incredible. And then, but getting appearances over a team like Brown, an in-state rival in like a Governor's Cup game, and then playing against conference rivals in Stony Brook and Elon, just obviously you've then went on to play them multiple times over and over. But I mean, just those first initial games, those first initial snaps, just what was that feeling like for you? Because then at that point, you have to imagine that, all right, everything I'm working for is actually starting to pay off now. Like that trust in the coaches is there because they trust me to put me into that position. Right.
So, that 2017 season, I redshirted, so I didn't play at all, didn't even really dress. Then so 2018 comes, you're a redshirt freshman, so your second year really. And I remember playing Brown, we're beating them like 48-10 or something. And the strong safety was a senior. He was starting, right? And at this point, I was like a 3rd string. And he looks at me and he's like, "You want to play?" And it was like the end of the 4th quarter. And I was so nervous. Like, I knew the playbook, but like, he's asking me if I want to play like my first college football snaps ever. And this is the starting strong safety. Like a kid, I was like, okay, like I gotta try to be like this kid. He's like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, I don't know. Like, obviously I should be like, yeah, hell yeah, I want to play. You know what I mean? But like, it was nervous, so I was like, and he's like, "Yanni," he's like, "You gotta play." He's like, "Well, we're getting you in there." So he goes up to the DC and he's like, "Yo, the DC was the DB coach, right?" And he's like, "Put Yanni in." He's like, "Put Yanni in." And all the guys were like, "Put Yanni in." And I'm like, I would never forget that moment. I went out there and I didn't do much. I like backpedaled into the post a couple times and drove the ball and was tackled. But I was out there and like Jake Fire, Malik Gavik, those other guys I came in with were playing too. And It was a surreal feeling. I was playing there. I think my parents came to every single game, whether I was dressed or not, and knew I wasn't playing, but they still wanted to be there to just like congratulate me and see me just in that atmosphere. And them seeing me, knowing that they were seeing me and watching me do that was pretty special. And I'll never forget those first few snaps. College football, I didn't do anything. I don't think I really touched anybody, but I was out there and making the right calls and stuff. So, yeah, it was crazy. It was finally all your hard work is starting to pay off, and it gives you a little bit more to keep going.
Yeah, and if your career ended that day, you would be able to say that, you know what, like I was able to do it. I was able to get onto the field.
Yeah.
But clearly, that's not where it ended.
Right.
And following the 2018 season, the team finished 6-5. That's one game over 500 for some programs is like okay to below expectations. URI's expectations for football now, they would probably say that falls under expectations. But in 2018, that a revelation going from 2-10 to 6-5, incredible.
Right.
And so then, following that season, in 2019, clearly something changed because the effort that you had put in was starting to show.
Right.
The coaches firmly seemed to believe you because you went from playing in 3 games to then playing in 10.
Right.
So just following 2018, the lessons that you learned from being a walk-on, from being that lowest guy on the totem pole to continue to work harder, how did that transition into the summer before the 2019 season where you started to really get more consistent first or second string looks?
Right. So now I've been in the program for 2 years, right? So now I'm getting more comfortable with the playbook, and now the coaches are starting to respect me more because of how hard I'm working, right? So now it's like an initial way to get onto the field of special teams. Right, so those 10 games were all special teams, really. I had a couple of defensive snaps here and there, but we still had a strong back end for DBs, and I was now like a second string. This is my 3rd year, so a junior in the classroom, redshirt sophomore on the field, right? But now that they knew that my ability to work hard and stuff, and that's what gets you on special teams. So all those drills in the summer, all those drills during camp, all those drills during practice of just competitions and special teams and just one-on-ones and just seeing me not give up, they're like, all right, maybe we could put this kid out there and he could do something. And so those 10 games were mostly special teams and starting to play. So at the beginning of that 2019 season, right, I was on probably 1 or 2 special teams. By the end of the year, I was starting on all 4. And so throughout the year, just showing that it's like, this is what I want to do, and I'll do whatever it takes to get me on the field. And I know that defense will come eventually, but I need to earn your trust and show that I can go down and make tackles on special teams, so that's what I'm going to do. And so the lesson there is just go. Hard work is just gonna continue to heighten your respect for coaches and stuff, and understanding that you're 1-11, understanding that you got to do the team stuff first, right? And understand that it's not instant gratification, right? It's like you're not just gonna go out and you're just gonna get a start on defense, right? You're gonna get a spot on special teams, and then you're gonna earn trust on special teams, and then be on all 4 and then get a chance to be on defense. So the lessons there is just like you got to keep going, even though it's not where you want to be. You got to realize that every little thing that you're getting, right, every special teams unit that you get put on, that's the next step in the right direction. So it's just not losing sight of the big picture thing. And
And so as you started to get more of these minutes and then going from just walk-on utility guy to then moving into special teams and then getting a prominent role in special teams, how were your teammates reacting to this? Because obviously you're starting to climb the totem pole in the eyes of your coaches, and then your teammates seeing the work that you're putting in, I have to imagine, started to respect you more as a fellow football player.
Yeah, it's one thing on a team and especially that team, to be like a prominent player on the team, right? Like you said, like a starter, defense or offense. And then be like a guy that's not really on special, that's kind of, they respect it, right? But there's a different vibe when you're playing a little bit. The guys and the coach start joking around with you a little bit more, and it's just kind of like, okay, this guy's like kind of a kid that's going to do something for us and help us out a little bit. And then the guys I've talked about, Jake Fire, Malik Gavick, they were all getting the same kind of thing. Like Jake had actually starting 2019, and I was still just earning my time on special teams. So you start to look at guys you came in with that were preferred walk-ons, earning their spots a little bit quicker. The first thing that comes to mind is how proud you are of those kids, because like when you're a team guy and you have those true friends, all you want to do is see those guys succeed. And I couldn't be more proud of Malik and Jake for starting to play and stuff. And I wasn't getting any snaps, but those guys were, and they were producing on defense. And I was just so pumped to watch them because we all put in the work together. And kids would come up to me and be like, hey, are you jealous that I'm like, I'm not jealous. Like, how can I be jealous? Like, I put in the work. I know my time's going to come. And, like, these guys are just put in the right spot. They did the right work, and their opportunities came. And it just happened a little quicker than mine. And, you know, my role was more special teams. They were all special teams, too, but they got those defensive snaps. And, you know, it was unbelievable just to, like, start building that bond with those guys and, like, seeing them play. And then you're getting a little playing time, and now you feel like more part of the team. It's not that you weren't accepted as part of the team. It's that you start feeling more part of the team because you feel like you're actually producing something to help win. Versus just being on the sideline. And during practice and stuff, when you're not playing, you're helping those guys wearing scout looks and stuff, and that's a big part of it, no doubt. But as a player, it's a different feeling when you get into yourself and start playing. But yeah, the team was you just start to get more comfortable. And like I said, in 2017, I came in, it was super uncomfortable. Now I'm comfortable, and I feel like one of the guys. And now I have 100 brothers in that locker room and stuff. So an incredible feeling, and just feeling the love from those guys, and then being able to go back to my dorm room with Malik and Jake and just being like, hey, man, we're playing here. This is kind of cool, you know? And I remember a couple years ago when we were just like hit stick dummies for these starting guys. And yeah, man, it was a surreal feeling for sure. It was cool.
And so then obviously you've got that camaraderie that makes that transition easier, right, and allows for you to, you know, obviously feel like more a part of the team when you've got Jake and Malik, but Malachi. And were there any other guys who were older than you and more, like I would say, bona fide starters that you gravitated toward to sort of help you assimilate more into the team while also trying to establish yourself as a guy that really wants to contribute?
Yeah, absolutely. There was these two kids really for me. Well, there was more than that, but the first kid that I really bought into, his name's AJ Baxter. He was a starting safety when I got there. And his role he had battled injuries throughout his career, and you know, he was a starter like his freshman year. He came in as a big dude from Jersey, and you know, injuries had battles, so he was kind of bouncing around second, first string, and getting playing time here and there. But injuries had kind of hurt him. But that guy was just a guy that had done it, and a guy I really looked up to. And I remember his locker was near mine, and I would go up to him and ask him just the craziest questions, like, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, what are we doing? Like, what's the schedule here? What's the schedule there? And he's like, he would be so helpful, and there's times he'd be like, Yanni, you got to figure some stuff out by yourself, and you got to stop asking me so many questions. But I still talk to that kid a lot today, and I really respect him. I really look up to him, and he's doing really good things now. And then a guy, Mamadou Mbaye, who was a guy that played at Shea High School here in Rhode Island. So a Rhode Island local kid that walked on, and his story is incredible, and then became a captain and became a starter and got a shot at still playing professional football today. So a guy like that just worked hard, and I was like, I'm in the same path as him. Like, I want to be a captain one day, and I want to play professional football. And then I watched this kid do it. And he was a year or two ahead of me. Those two guys I really looked up to. And then you got guys like Andre Beeble, who was a D lineman that just showed hard work. Another Rhode Island guy that just earned everything, walk on to a captain. Had a chance to play professional, but realized he just was all right with football and just all right with his college career. And there's guys that are just, we're down the same path as me. And I saw them do it, and I was like, oh, I can do this too. And then they're just there for me whenever I needed them. And I still talk to AJ a lot today, and Mamadou every once in a while. And I need to reach out to AJ. I really, really love that kid. And you start to think about those guys you played with and how much of an impact they made on your life. And the fact that it stinks to hear that I'm thinking about it right now, like while I'm doing this interview, that I don't reach out to them enough, and I need to let them know how much they mean to me. So, but yeah, so definitely a lot of guys in that locker room that helped me out for sure.
And so you mentioned earlier about how the light at the end of the tunnel seemed so far away at times that you really weren't sure that it was there. And then obviously having guys like that, guys that you've come through in, fellow walk-ons, and then guys that are older than you and have been through the same stuff, that helps a great deal. Yep. But one of the things that I'm always fascinated by, just given the way that the times that we've come from, and like particularly from the COVID pandemic of 2020 and 2021, were just how athletes like yourself were able to cope with basically the world getting shut down. Yeah. And in your particular case, I feel like that I have to imagine that it was difficult for you considering the amount of momentum you were riding in 2019, having started to really assert yourself as a dominant force on special teams. And after that season, you're probably thinking, okay, now I might have a shot to make some consistent contributions on defense. And then 2020 comes and the season's completely cut short, eradicated. There's only 3 games, really. You make 3 appearances. Barely counts as a season. Right. So during the 2020 season, How difficult was that for you? I mean, physically, mentally, and at any point did you feel that your momentum was just completely gone?
Yeah, yeah, it was weird, man. It was really weird. I remember right in 2019, COVID happened and we moved out. I was off campus and we just moved. I moved back home. It was like, all right, let's. My parents were kind of like, let's get our family together, kind of thing. And everybody was leaving Rhode Island to go back home and like, let's quarantine together. Let's be together during this time. We don't know what this could be. And at that point, it was weird, right? Because we had also our staff had changed, right? That I think that's around the time that 2020, like 2019, 2020 was when a lot of guys had gotten fired, and my DB coach, my DC had been fired, so they're going to bring in a new guy, and I was like, damn, I got to reprove myself to like all these coaches and whatnot, and I was ready to play 4 years and then leave. You know what I mean? I was like, it's not really working here. This coach isn't really seeing what I hoped he would, and maybe I'm just like, I've given all I had, and maybe it's just not enough. You know what I mean? And sometimes that happens in life. And so I was like, I got to do 4 years. I'm going to go use my marketing degree and go get a marketing job and start my life outside of football. And then in COVID, you know, right before this new coach, Coach Jack Cooper, had come in, and I was like, okay. And he started like immediately was like, all right, I've heard that like a lot of guys look up to you in the room. I've heard this, I've heard that. And now it's like my fourth year, right? So now I'm a senior, really in the classroom, redshirt junior. So I'm an older guy, and now there's younger guys. They look up to me. I still haven't really played much, but I still have that respect because of how hard I worked. And he was like, I'm pushing you as a leader, and I'm pushing you into this role. And I was like, okay, maybe like this guy sees something in me, and I can do that. And so it was tough, yeah. And then, right, and then going to 2020, and then I remember being in August or really July, June-ish, we had got this big announcement. Our head coach was like, let's get on Zoom. He's like, our season's canceled, so you guys don't need to report back until like school actually starts in September. And as a football player, right, we're back in end of July. You know what I mean? So I was like, well, I got till September, and I was in my gym, and I was like, this is sick. Like I just keep working out and getting after it and getting bigger, getting stronger, getting faster. But I was like, we don't have football season. Like, what the heck is this going to look like? You know, the fall since I was like 8 years old has been football, and now I don't have it. So mentally, it was tough. But you know, WebEx and Zoom, just every day we're meeting with Coach Coop to get right, and then we finally get back on campus, right, and we're meeting with him and whatnot, and we're having these half practices, potted practices with masks and everything and whatnot for COVID regulations and whatnot. But it was a crazy time, and we still have film of that through our network that we use and stuff, our software, and we'll watch those practice sometimes. It's like, what a crazy time that was. But it was bittersweet for me, right? And because it was COVID and everything that came with COVID and everything, and how sad it was for a lot of stuff that happened, for me and a lot of players, like it actually helped me because we got a new staff and had more time with the playbook, had an extra year with the playbook without having our first game. Because then we had that 2021 spring season. Like it helped me a lot actually, and put me in a great position. And I hate to attribute COVID to that, right? Like because of what happened with COVID, but COVID gave me an opportunity to kind of like find myself and have somebody believe in me and kind of find my position on the team and realize that like, okay, maybe I don't want to leave after 4 years. Maybe I got a fifth year. Maybe I got a sixth year and whatnot. And Coach Coop did that for me and stuff. And it kind of, even though I had momentum going, when he came in, it's like my momentum jumped again. And I had even more, even though I hadn't even done anything for him. It was just the way that he took to me as a player.
And how much time and effort did you put into that decision? Because I mean, like it seemed like right before COVID, you were pretty set, graduate 4 years, move on. But then having been in the position that you were, where you really hadn't contributed that much on like the first string or first line of guys, to then be like, all right, no, I'm coming back and I'm doing it again. How difficult of a decision was that for you to make, or did Coach Cooper just make it fairly easy?
Yeah, I knew I was going to play that last season, no doubt, my fourth year. And so that last season would have been that 2020 fall season. That would have been my last season, but it was canceled. So then we found out we had a spring season. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to play my spring season, and then I'm going to graduate in May. So I was like, okay, this is going to be weird, right? Like, it's all going to be so close together. So regardless of what happened, like even if that other coach was still there, I was going to play that last season. But I started my first ever game then, and I didn't know I was going to start. And, you know, Coach Coop was like, you do all the little things right, you work hard, I'm going to start you, you've been rewarded. Like when he showed up, he didn't realize that I wasn't on scholarship. He didn't realize that I wasn't this. And I was going to my 4th year of college and I wasn't on scholarship still. And rightfully so, like I hadn't played much. So like I hadn't earned that yet. And I understood you had to earn it. But I started, right, those 3 games at safety. And I was like, okay. And then after the season, so I graduate college, right, in 2021 of May. I graduate college, and I'm like, okay, like, I have a 5th year, right, because I redshirted. The COVID year, like, the NCAA had to agree on all that stuff. So that, like, that was a little bit until that 6th year came around. But the feeling, I was like, I have a 5th year, and Coach Flem, I remember calling me, I'm at home, and he's like, so what's keeping you from coming back for a 5th year? And I was like, well, I'm not on scholarship, and I'm not going to pay for another year by myself. Like, I'm not going to take out a loan to pay for that. He's like, all right. He's like, well, I'm going to put you on full scholarship. And I was like, are you serious? I was just like, full scholarship? I was like, you're going to pay for me to go to school? He's like, yeah. He's like, you got a full scholarship to play here. Like, full scholarship for the fall. And I was like, completely blown away. Because everything that I had been told, like, going in as a freshman, I was like, okay, yeah, you have a chance to earn money at some point in your career. And I had gone through my whole college career. Like, right, you're a junior. Like, imagine you've been told your freshman year, and you're still, like, waiting for that. And now you still have another year until you earn it. It's an unbelievable feeling. And I was like, my hard work has finally paid off. And he's like, you have a school? I was like, I'm in. Like, immediately I was like, yeah, I'm coming back for 5th year. I was like, why wouldn't I? Like, I love football. I was like, I started. I was like, okay, so now I'm going to go do what I've always been doing, work hard. So I'm definitely going to continue to start. Just depends on where, because I know I'm going to keep putting the effort in. So I was like, oh my God. So like, Coach Coop's in here. He started me. He believes in me. I just got a full ride. I feel like a dude a little bit. Like, I feel like a guy that's kind of going to make an impact for this team. And then the 2021, right, fall season happened. So then that whole summer, I'm just like, I'm so pumped. We're just working in that team. There's just a different feeling to that team and stuff. So that's how I came back for a 5th year. I didn't think I was going to. I had already graduated college and was ready to move on. And then I got a full scholarship. So I was like, I'm coming back, baby. Let's go.
And so then, out of curiosity, in terms of academics,
right,
when you were deciding to go do the 5th year,
right,
and then, because obviously you have to decide on, hey, you got to go get a master's in something now.
Right.
What were you thinking of in terms of, like, academia, being like, all right, should I pursue a master's in marketing? Are there any other things that I want to learn when I go back? Because, I mean, like, most recently with how the portal has evolved in the past few years, like, you're starting to see more and more people transferring in or out of universities, and those decisions are strictly based off of what the school provides in terms of grad programs.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, just I had curiosity, I mean, because I can't imagine that you were really thinking about, like, pursuing anything further in academia beyond that. So how did that process work out for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I studied business, right? I was a marketing major, and I had a sports media minor. I think I picked that up along the way because, I wanted to do like a sports marketing kind of thing for my future. And I was kind of sports media, kind of what you're doing. Not necessarily the journalism side, but the idea of working in sports somehow. I need to keep sports like tied into my life somehow because it's such a big thing for me. So graduated with a marketing degree and a sports media minor. And then I had a 5th year, and I didn't know I was taking a 6th year. So I was like, okay, do I just get like a grad certificate that takes like a semester? So like that fall, will I just take a certificate and be good with that? But then I was meeting with my advisors, and they're like, okay, you have a sports media minor. You could turn that to a second bachelor's degree if you just get the right classes done and whatnot. And so my buddy Jake was doing his MBA. And I was like, okay, I could get my master's, which would be pretty cool, but I already have a marketing degree in business, right? So like getting an MBA and master's would be just another business thing. So maybe I should like branch out and get try to build my resume a little bit and have a little diversity in my portfolio, if you will, right? So I was like, okay, marketing bachelor's, maybe I can get a communication bachelor's just to have two. Like, I think those things go hand in hand. And so I decided to go with a second undergrad and just turn my minor into a second bachelor's degree. So I had a chance to go with the MBA, like Jake did. He got his master's, which is great. I decided to just diversify my portfolio a little bit and get a second bachelor's degree in communications and a sports media minor. So I've got 2 bachelors and a minor, which I'm happy with. I think that at some point I'll go back and get my master's degree. It just depends on when. I'm obviously busy, but that would be something I'm definitely interested in getting my MBA. Looking back on it, I would have probably gone back and done the MBA just to get a master's, because in coaching, there are some schools that look for that. But I'm not disappointed in my decision at all. I think having 2 bachelor's degrees is still pretty cool. So
It must have
that's how it worked.
must have been wild, like looking back on it now, considering where you started, having been like, all right, I'm walking on URI football, and now I'm coming back
Yep.
as a 5th-year senior, pursuing a 2nd degree,
Right.
doing this. Like, it's just like, yeah, you probably always dreamed of being able to do this, but like the fact that it became a reality must have been astonishing to you.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was everything that after that 4th year, it was just like bonus. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect any of it. I didn't expect to even play, really, when I came in as a freshman. I just expected to, like, work hard, prove myself. The guy and the coach would be like, that's a gritty guy from New Hampshire. And now he's off, and he's just another guy that kind of went through the system. So everything that I did was just kind of gravy, and just shows the hard work and pay off, really. Yeah.
So then coming back to campus in the fall of 2021, you kind of alluded to it, saying that you felt a little bit more like the man, because now you've got that scholarship. The hard work is it's already been on display, so the coaches already know what you can contribute. You already know what you can contribute, but you're now finally starting to get that backing, that recognition for all of that hard work. And I mean, you've talked about just like how coming on campus, like you don't want to get ahead of yourself, like you want to stay focused, level-headed, keep working hard. But I have to imagine that mentality might have tweaked just slightly when you came back, being like, all right, you know what? Now I can relax slightly. Like I just mentally can take a little bit of weight off my shoulders, knowing that I proved this to myself, I proved this to the coaches. And I mean, like you said, the rest of it's just a bonus now. Now it's just like, go do what you know you can do and go have fun.
Right, so yeah, the mindset's definitely like, all right, I've done the gritty work of like proving myself and like kids respect me. But now my whole mindset shifted, right? It was like, okay, now I'm at a point where it's like I didn't know I was going to get. Now it's like, okay, I've got a year and maybe another. Now I can do something even greater. So now my eyes were set on being the best leader I could, right? And we had these captains that I looked up to and stuff, and I was like, I want to be like that. And then the idea was like, okay, like I've got this, I'm like starting now, I'm playing. Is there a chance to like maybe continue and just be good enough to play professional football? And so like, obviously as a young kid, that was my goal my whole life. You know, I had, it's a crazy thing, and I'll talk about that when we talk about that whole process, but I had found this piece of paper, when I was in elementary school, and it's like, where do you want to be when you're 25 years old? And it said, be an NFL player. And we'll talk about that because like, I was literally about to turn 25 and I was training to be an NFL player, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, if the younger person saw me, they would be amazed at where I was. But like, yeah, the mindset shifted, but it shifted in a different way. It was like, okay, I did the gritty work. All right, that's established. That's just what I do. Now I've got to take it up another notch if I want to play professional football and be the best player for this team. Now it's not like, all right, I just want to start. Now I want to be a guy for this team and this defense and be a guy people look up to, and then now actually be a difference maker on this team. You could be a role player and whatnot, and I believe I was, but I believe I was a difference maker too. And so you could just be another guy that's just like starting, and then like it's cool with that, but I wasn't complacent with that. I want to be like a guy on that defense and really contribute. So the mindset shifted for sure, but I was like, I still got a chip on my shoulder, but now my focus is different and it's even higher, so now I got to raise the bar a little bit.
And so clearly you were a difference maker. I mean, just look at the 2021 season, 48 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, a sack, an interception, a forced fumble, 6 pass breakups. I mean, you started all 11 games.
Right.
And when after that phone call with Flem, where he was wanted to offer you the full scholarship, you get the idea that you're going to play a more integral role on this team. But even so, did you still expect to start the entire season?
So I had started that last spring season, and I expected to be on that field for sure. The role that I played, I didn't expect at all. You know, he had started carving out this role for me as that hybrid, like linebacker nickel, safety / tight. And in that role was like, I loved it so much, and I was cool. He was like, look, he's like, you aren't necessarily the best athlete on the field, but you're one of the smartest. And so for me, he's like, just learn every position you can. So we were just bringing these incredible athletes, right? We had Kobe Tippett, O'Neal Robinson, A.J. Rogers, Malik Gavick, all these kids, Tone Carter, Jay Jones, like all these incredible players that could just play, are better athletes than me. But I was able to just, okay, we're going to put Malik Gavick at strong safety. Okay, we'll move Yanni to outside linebacker. Or we'll move him to free safety. All right, we want to put O'Neal Robinson at free safety. Okay, he can go play inside linebacker. He can play Will. He can play this. So it's the idea is that I could just be moved around and just be on the field. I just wanted to be on the field no matter what, so I just kind of learned as many positions as I could. And I think that 2021 season, technically I played like 7, 8 different positions, if you think about it. Just because I was able to move around. I played that free, that strong, that outside, that small nickel, the big nickel, the outside linebacker, the inside linebacker in dime packages, and just be able to move so we could put other people on the field, but I was still able to find a place for myself. So I expected to be on the field, no doubt. But in that kind of role, no way. And it was the best ever. I loved just being moving around and do whatever needed to be done.
And so getting surprised by that increased level of contribution, then also seeing the success on the field completely turn around from where you started to the fact that now Rhode Island was competing for FCS playoff berths. Had like that feeling to know that, all right, it seems like the second that they were like starting to take me seriously, the team's really starting to improve. I mean, I have to imagine that just like all of the vibes around you were really just starting to elevate as that on the field performances from you personally and your teammates really started to improve.
It was unbelievable. I mean, I remember freshman year, Jake, Malik, and I walking out on the field and being like, one day we're going to change this program. One day we're going to be leaders. And I remember that like vividly, walking onto that grass field before it was turf and being like, we're going to do something here. And I give a lot of credit to, Flem was able to bring the right people in. Murphy and Coop came in at the same time. And it was hard for him to, move on from the staff, right? Because his son was part of that staff. And that's a really tough decision. And I really praise Coach Fleming for that. And he brought in the right guys to do the right thing. He made the hard decision to let some people go. And then he was able to bring in the right people. I mean, Coach Coop hadn't been a DC before. He gave Coach Coop a shot as a young coach to be a DC and came in and he blew it out of the water, And then Coach Murph was an established coach and he came in and brought in Kasim and them and established a great program there. So yeah, it was crazy, but it wasn't just us, right? It was the staff was able to bring in the right staff, and then that staff took to the kids and was able to bring in the right culture and teach culture the correct way and stuff. And so it was an all-around university effort, football program effort. It's just lucky that we kind of timed up that way, where you had these guys that were all walk-ons that were now leaders on this team that knew the way things had to be done the hard way, in like the blue-collar way, Rhode Island way. And those coaches just bought into it, and we bought into the coaches, and it just clicked like crazy, and it just flew. And we went from going 2-10, 2017 to 21, where now we're right. That 2020 season, 2021 spring season, we were 2-1, and then it got canceled. And then the 21 fall season, 7-4, and then 22, 7-4 too. So we just knew we had something special.
And so then you have that first 7-4 season in 21, where fan expectations all of a sudden just erupt.
Yeah.
People are shocked at how competitive the team is.
Right.
Like in every single game, regardless of whether there was a win or a loss, there were just not really many blowouts during that season. And so then moving into 2022, your final year in Rhode Island, to me, when I look back at the stats and from what we've been talking about over the past 40 or so minutes, 2022 had to have been the completion of that full circle.
Right.
I mean, because you're talking about, you even mentioned it earlier, where one of the guys that you looked up to started as a walk-on, was then named a captain, going on to play professionally. 2022, you go from being a walk-on to then being elected as a captain by your teammates.
Right.
And so, I mean, that feeling must have, I have to imagine that's maybe like a top 3 feeling for you as a football player when they elected you as a captain.
It's different, right? Because it's like your team is electing you, right? It's not coming from the coaches. And so it's one thing from the coaches to elect you, and you're like, okay, thank you. But to have your teammates think of you as their leader, that's just like an unbelievable feeling. And they knew how badly, it's not that I was chasing to be a captain, I was just chasing to be the best leader for them I could. And along with that comes that captainship. But the thing that I think is misinterpreted about being a captain is people, when they get that C on their chest, try to be a different person. But you just got to understand that when you're elected captain, you were elected captain because of what you've been doing. So you don't need to change anything. You just need to continue to do what you've done. And I think that the reason that some people aren't glorified leaders or the best leaders they can is because they try to be someone they're not once they're elected. They try to change the way. I was able to just keep it real and do what I did. And then I had an incredible support system around me. The guys like Malik and Jake didn't have the interest to be a captain, but they pushed me to be and understood that they were going to be my second-hand guys and just be there for me and just be able to push the message that we all talked about since we were young. So So we just had the right people. I had Evan Stewart and Jake in that inside back room. I had Malik and I and some other guys, O'Neal, Jay Jones, in that DB room. Then I had other guys in the D line like Bourbon, those guys that were just pushing the envelope there. I didn't even know I was going to come back for a sixth season. I remember being in the weight room with Coach Coop. We were actually working out together. And I remember talking to Evan Stewart, being like, I don't know if I'm going to come back another year. It's the end of the fifth year, right? We were in like winter training and stuff, and I was just like staying in shape. He's like, what's holding you back? I was like, I don't know. I was just like, do I really realistically have a shot at going professional? And I had talked to Coach Coop about, he's like, I think if you want to play professional, you need to come back one more year and show your third year in the system and show your continual improvement. And I was like, okay. But I was still kind of iffy. I was like, a whole another year of off-season training, a whole another year of summer training. So I was in the weight room, and I look at Evan, and I'm like, I think I'm going to come back for a sixth year. He's like, you should go tell Coach Coop right now. And I was like, hey, Coach, I'm going to come back for a sixth year. And we just like dapped up, hugged, and like went nuts. And I was like, this is pretty sick. I was like, let's do it. Because like he had told me, he's like, all right, if you're going to move on, you got to let me know. I got to recruit another kid to fill your position. Because if you don't, then you're keeping here. I don't need to recruit someone, right? Because it's all about the next guy up kind of thing. So he's like, all right, let's have a serious talk about it. So then I went and we talked about it, and I was like, I'm going to stay. So we didn't have to recruit that position, which is kind of nice. But that was a surreal feeling. And I was like, okay, now once I locked in there, I was like, all right, now next step. All those leaders are gone. It's me. I'm up next. Me and the guys are up next. And I was like, all right, let's go. And my whole demeanor was just like leadership, culture. We went 7-4. We were the first lift out last year. Let's go make it happen. And there was other seniors on the other side of the ball offense that just bought in. And it was just like the whole team was ready to go. One goal, let's go win. It was unbelievable. The mission of that team was next level.
In being named captain, do you feel that pushed your on-the-field performance even higher up because you had that recognition from your teammates because they fully believed in you? Like, you're obviously going to war with these guys, and you're showing out just like they are, but the fact that obviously your leadership and character elevated you to a point where they looked up to you in that regard. But I mean, when you look at like your stats during that season, like you led the team in tackles for loss. You had 9.5. You had 3.5 sacks, which was a career high for you. You had 46 tackles in total, and just overall played like that true leader and true captain. But I mean, do you feel that getting that sort of recognition from your fellow teammates allowed you to break through another glass ceiling in terms of your on-the-field performance?
Yeah, I wouldn't attribute the captainship to that. I think the captainship pushed me off the field as a leader to continue to build the trust with those guys. I really think that the reason that team and the only reason that I had that sort of success, if you will, is because of just how close we were as a team and the guys doing their job around them. Everybody just understood that if you did your 1 in 11 and did your job, everybody's success is going to be amplified. And so, like, those numbers are those numbers. But, like, you look at everybody else's numbers, they're all their career best, too. You know what I mean? It's not just those are great. It's Stu had a great year. Jake Fire was second team all-conference. Malik played well. JC played well. O'Neal, AJ Rogers, Jay Jones, Tone Carter. Like, all these kids played unbelievable seasons, and everybody had the best seasons of their careers. So it's like, it was just the fact that the team had gotten that close, and the fact that the guy that was playing behind me, giving me my calls, I had been best friends with for 6 years. Like, that bond is unbreakable. And so I trusted him, and our word was trust. And I just knew everybody was going to do their job. And there was no doubt in my mind that I was going to get the right call from the kid. I didn't have to turn around and acknowledge it. Like, that's what pushed us to do. We just knew if I fit outside of 2, he was fitting inside of 2. It was just like trust, dude. Trust is like, in life, is the biggest thing. And the loyalty, the trust, just felt it from everybody. And there was like nothing that could break that team apart, man. It was different. It was really different.
That's the sign of a good program, when you have that culture where you're able to win together, lose together, but you're all still a brotherhood.
Yep.
And so before we get into the draft stuff and then moving into coaching, because we're running low on time, right. I have one thing I do want to ask you. The UNH game in 2022.
Yep.
I every time I have a football player on the show, I want to get their opinion, because that's probably one of the biggest games that this university has had in the past maybe 10 years. Mm-hmm. And being a New Hampshire kid, having tried this exact same sort of thing, trying to walk on at UNH and so on, right. and then it not working there, I have to imagine going into that game with the stakes as high as they were, you really, really had a chip on your shoulder going up there.
Yeah, no doubt. That was a big game for me. I had my parents had gotten everybody there from New Hampshire. You know, every family friend and family member that was close was at that game. So when I came out on the field, they had posters and stuff, and you know, I let that get to me a little bit. I was really like, I gotta prove something to these people, and I didn't play the game that I wish I had. But I'm proud of the way that the rest of the team played. I'm so proud of the way the guys played. They played hard, and that was a really good UNH team, a really good URI team, just a true gritty, like blue collar, just battle. And yeah, and you know, you see that last play happen, but there's a lot of plays that could have been made throughout the game to make it not come down to that. We had a lot of opportunities. I had a lot of opportunities that I messed up that I would like back. That's football. However, it was very unfortunate. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to relive that. And you know, now that I'm coaching, I see that play all the time because when we just saw that defense. But yeah, it's hard. But it was an incredible moment. It was probably one of the worst moments of my career for sure. It's hard to explain. But yeah, you're right. Like going back to New Hampshire as a captain, right, and really hearing UNH not wanting me, but URI gave me an opportunity. Yeah, I had a huge chip on my shoulder for sure, and I let that get to me, and I didn't play the game I needed to play for sure. But I'm proud of the way the rest of the team played for sure.
And so that sort of lesson and that understanding of like, all right, that you let the occasion sort of get to you. You didn't play the game that you wanted. Having learned that lesson, the very difficult one at that, how do you feel that lesson helped prepare you for stuff down the line, like declaring for the NFL draft, going through the draft process, then ultimately not getting your name called and going undrafted for the NFL, but then getting calls from the CFL and the BC Lions? Just how did lessons like that and lessons that you've learned throughout your entire time, going from a walk-on and then being named captain throughout the 6 years at URI, helped prepare you for the initial life immediately after football ended?
Yeah, for me, it taught me to not let the moment get too big, right? I was trying to create this idea. It was like, I'm trying to prove them wrong. It's like, who cares, dude? It's like you've proved yourself. You know, you proved yourself right. It's like nobody thought I could be here, and I did it. And you play for Rhode Island now. They give you a shot, and now people know that you can do it. So why are you still trying to prove people wrong? It's like I was trying to do too much, and you know, we had a mental coach in my draft prep, and he said it's not about proving other people wrong. It's about proving your younger self right. And I had done that, and I had surpassed everything I believed that I could achieve. And I tried to make it something it wasn't for that UNH game, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go out there and show the UNH coaches. Though half the coaches that I tried to play for in 2017 weren't even there anymore. So I was like trying to prove myself to people that didn't even know who I was. You know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, I would take a step back before and be like, hey, it's another game. You go win this. Yeah, we probably would have been conference champions. Oh, that would have been sweet. But it's just another game. It's another conference game, and we need to go win just like we need to go beat Albany, like we need to go beat Villanova. It's the exact same thing. So it's not about proving people wrong anymore. It's about proving your young self right. And I let the moment get too big, and if I could go back and do it, I would just realize it's another game, and I was playing that game for the wrong reason.
Is that a lesson that you've been trying to instill in a lot of the younger guys since you've come back and started coaching?
Yeah, no doubt. You know, a big thing about being a coach now is being a role model for those kids, just like Jack Cooper was for me. And yeah, I think that's huge. I think that realizing that a lot of these kids didn't even think they were going to go to college. A lot of these kids are first-generation college kids in their family, which is an unbelievable feat in itself. And my job is to develop young men. And my job is to get those kids to walk out of this university with a degree in hand and set them up for their future. Everything beyond that, playing the game of football, the best game in the world, is bonus. It is icing on the cake, right? So if I can instill that they should be proud and take a step back and just evaluate where they are, I've won as a coach. And if they can reach out to me once they're done with all this and say that I helped them a little bit at all, I've won as a coach. And so, you know, I'm young and I'm just getting with these kids. I've been working with these kids. They've been in my room for 2 months now, but I hope I can get that and be that guy for them. And I can start that seeing that a little bit.
And so then, as you had gone through the draft process and then the workouts and preseason with the BC Lions, and you had the dream of going professional, seemed like it was going to be a little bumpy, but it seemed like it was within reach. and then you decide that maybe that wasn't the path that you truly wanted to take, and then you decide to move into coaching. I mean, just that sort of decision. You've obviously played more football than a lot of people usually do from the at the college level, and you've gone a lot farther than many would have expected someone in your position in 2018 would have gone. And then, but so just the decision to then go from playing to just be like, you know what, I want to move into coaching. How did that decision come about?
Yeah, I mean, I know we don't have too much time, but it's like I finished playing, right? I go to a bowl game. After that, I got to find an agent and I got to find a place to train. And they don't really prepare for you that, right? So like I'm on my own doing all that stuff. I end up signing with this guy from New Hampshire, a guy that believed in me. Anyway, I go train for the pro day, do that work in Pennsylvania, and then I do the pro day. I'm very happy with how I do there. Proud of all the guys that went there. And now it's like a month of waiting for the draft. So now you're just like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen? I don't know how this is all going to happen. A week before the draft, right, I get a call from the GM from the BC, and he's like, look, if the NFL doesn't happen, we want to sign you a 2-year contract. And I'm like crying on the phone, and like my mom's standing there, I'm in CVS, and she's like, what just happened? I was like, I'm going to play professional football. She starts crying, I'm crying, I'm like, oh my gosh. So like going to the NFL draft, I had an opportunity. So I go through the NFL draft, I don't hear anything, whatnot. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I got an opportunity to play in the CFL, which is like the second best league in the world. Let's go do that. So I'm like, I'm not even going to wait to hear from other people about like a rookie minicamp or anything like that. So I'm just like, okay, so I signed the 2-year deal, whatnot. Go to Vancouver, and it's unbelievable. Like I love it there. The Canada was sweet. I was ready to move there. I was pumped. And I make it through the first couple cuts. I'm competing. You know, I'm brought in as an inside linebacker, which I'd never played in my life really. So like I was reading like gap scheme and zone runs and stuff and pulls and that I'd never done before. And ended up getting cut on the third set of cuts. Extremely grateful for the opportunity. I made sure when I sat down with the GM, if it had nothing to do with my character, nothing to do with like who I was as a person, my effort, he said no. It was just you're American, and we only have a certain roster spot amount for Americans, just how the CFL works, and we just needed to see a little bit more out of you. So I was like, okay, I'm good. And then yeah, that transition is like I didn't hear anything from a lot of other teams. I had a chance to play in like Europe, but I was like, I don't think I really want to do that. I think I kind of want to move on. And mentally, it was the hardest thing, being like I felt like my whole identity was football. Right, so it's hard to be like, oh, I'm going to move on from football. Like, what am I going to do? And I remember sitting at home, and I was like, I can't just sit here anymore and do like these one-off jobs and stuff to make some money here and there and live at home. And my parents were like, all right, we'll support you whatever you want to do. And they had been so supportive throughout the whole thing. I felt like I was almost letting them down because I was done playing, and like they had put so much into me to play. But then like Coach Laurenti and Jake started coaching here. We're like, all right, whenever you're done, like, we'll have you here. And so I hit him up. I was like, do you still have a spot? They're like, yeah. So then I was like, all right, let's just jump right into coaching. Like, I still just want to, football needs to be in my blood somehow. Like, this is something I could try out. And it's hard to, like, try out coaching because, like, you're either in it or you're not. Like, it's so demanding, like, time-wise and all this. It's like, you either got to do it or you're not. Like, we're not going to take a coach that's, like, half in, half out. So I was like, all right, let's go. And then that's how I came in as an assistant on the defense. And I was just like, it was really hard mentally because I had to tell my agent, I was like, I think I'm just going to be done with football. And then I was like, oh my God, it's just it. Like, I'm actually going to retire from football or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, that's how that happened. But it was really, really probably the hardest decision I ever had to make, yeah.
And so then as we wrap this up, you were recently promoted to the defensive backs coach.
Yeah.
Another full circle moment for you. And so, I mean, I'm just curious, what message do you have for Rhody football fans in terms of what they should expect in 2024? Because clearly the fandom has grown exponentially over the past few years. But now that you're back and you're here to help enhance it and help grow it even further, what message do you have for Rhody football fans?
Yeah, I mean, you, in terms of like our room, you're just never going to see a guy that has more pride in this program than I do. You know, I've been here for I played 6 years, and now I'm going to go on my like eighth season here. You're not going to see a guy that works harder for this program because of the pride I have for this place, and I know what it can be. You know, I know everybody saw some guys leave. You know, we had some dudes leave, and that's what football is. That's college football. You know, guys leave, guys graduate, next man up mentality. And we got a good stable of guys coming back. We got a young group, but a hungry group. You know, all these guys are in that idea, like I had talked about, that are trying to prove something. And I love seeing that, especially in my room. It's like there's a lot of young guys that are hungry, and a lot of old guys that are ready to help those hungry guys and lead them and whatnot. And, I'm really, really proud of our front seven. I think those linebackers and D-line look really good, really good, and I'm really proud of my guys for how hard they're playing. We got some work to do, no doubt. Every team does. That's what spring ball is. We got some work to do. Offensive side of the ball's got some new pieces too. With Kasim leaving, he's a guy that knew the playbook well and stuff. So now you got to get a new guy ready and whatnot. And we got a great quarterback battle going on. But you got a hungry team, a really hungry team that understands that last year was not the standard. We're going to add a few more pieces here and there through the portal and whatnot in spring. And we'll bring in the right pieces to add and plug in those holes and stuff. But the culture is rising back to where it was. And we're putting such an emphasis on leadership and that culture and stuff to get those guys to buy into the right thing. And, we're hitting the ground running. We're good. We feel like we're in a good spot. We're hungry and super excited about this fall. And we're going to stay in the moment now, keep getting those spring practices done and let those guys rep out and see what it looks. And if you're out there, come check out the spring game. It's going to be a fun game. And all practices are open Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8. So if you want to take a look at the new style Rams, come check them out. It's going to be a good season for sure. And I'm proud of these guys, proud of my guys, proud of the front seven, all those guys. I'm pumped.
That's awesome. Well, Henry, Coach, thank you so much for joining me. That was just awesome. I love learning about just your journey, and you've got me pumped. You've got me excited for what's to come for this program, because clearly it's in good hands. It's in the hands of people who truly care and want to see this team be as successful as possible. But again, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me today.
No doubt, Mark. I appreciate you having me on.
Of course. Well, everybody at home, thank you all for listening. We'll be back same time Wednesday, 1 to 2 on WRIU 90.3 FM. And so, I'll see you all in the next one.